When the proposal was asked for, this was something I'd been thinking about for a long time. A funny, just very quick story is that independent of myself, Dan Morosky was also dreaming of what could be at our waterfront. And we kind of compared notes and we looked at each other and went, well, what do you know? Brilliant minds. So it was a nice happenstance. The theme you're going to hear a lot is that this is a community piece of property owned by all of us. Therefore, what goes on this property and the activities that carry on this property have to benefit the majority of all of us. And if I think we follow those principles, it's going to make understanding what we're trying to do here a whole lot easier, and we'll make it flow a lot more. So let's see if I know how to work this damn thing. There we go. Okay, so we all know there's been, we're using the term revitalization. Another word I like is restoration. Our beach has a long history of a lot of activity, and frankly, what we've witnessed down there in the last 20 or 30 years is an anomaly in the sense of there used to be a lot more going on down there than there is. It was always a draw for tourists and locals looking for something to do. The Cedar Crescent Casino, as a lot of people know of it, was the social place. My mother-in-law and my father-in-law met there, and I think those stories are all over town. The Sunset Lodge, pictured in the photo on the bottom, that large white building, was a destination with dining, lodging. It was very much a place to be, and boaters would come to it from other places. So we have a long history of that kind of stuff. The town booth, I didn't know this till I did a little digging again with my mother-in-law, who's in her 80s, was the fry stand that Emma McGrath ran down there, and that was what they called it, the town booth, and we lost that to Southampton, so I hope to do something about that. The train, obviously, a part in all our hearts. My kids rode it. I rode it with them, whether I wanted to or not. The cake wheel, we all lament the loss of the cake wheel. What was more fun than putting down a quarter and winning a homemade cake by the Rotary Club or the Lions? And of course, concerts. The casino had a long history of concerts, and it was a gathering place, but we lost our way. And I don't think it's pertinent to say why we lost our way. I think we just did. And what we can change is the present and the future. And that's what we're here to do. So the Waterfront Master Plan was a long document that I actually have mostly read, I'm proud to say. Thank you, Neil, who was co-chair. It outlined a lot of the goals and hopes and aspirations for the community on what we wanted down there. There was also a corporate strategic plan, and they talked about waterfront capital investment. So the Waterfront Master Plan really was a public consultation done for what we should do with the entire shoreline. The harbor was just a portion of it, the harbor in Port Elgin. But two of the things that really stood out to me is we want to create a destination, and we want a destination where people can have experiences. Locals, people that are all-time, full-time residents here, say to me, we don't go to the beach for two reasons. And one of the reasons is it's crowded. When I say, well, no kidding, beaches are crowded. They said, but the more important reason is there's nothing to do. They could take crowding if they had a reason to be down there. And that's certainly my experience in beachfront communities with harbor projects all over the world. Community land for all of us. I've mentioned this. I'm going to repeat it a bunch of times. I think it's very important. Private-public partnerships are the way of the future. It is the way we're doing a bunch of things, and it is going to be the only way government is going to be able to achieve a lot of its goals. As funding becomes more and more an issue, finding private money to help create public things is the way, and this is maybe the poster child for it. We propose to put a lot of money into this. You'll see the details coming. And a sound business strategy is the only way to make sure that the money invested is worth it, but also maintained, and so that the asset does not decline. Because it's very important to treat this like an asset. Again, this is owned by the 14,000 some odd residents of Saugeen Shores. We owe it to us and to these residents to make this investment and make sure that the investment is sound, so that it reaps a return. And public assets don't necessarily return with money, but they return with services, they return with experiences, they return with adding to the inventory of what we have in the community, and I think this fits the bill. The time to invest, as a guy that used to do this for a living, is when times are good, not when times are bad. And I think of the question, gee whiz, things are really good right now. Why do we need more? Why do we need more jobs? Why do we need more GDP? And my simple answer is, it's bad karma not to make investments. And it is really important to invest when times are good, because when times are bad, you don't get that opportunity. You wish you had of, but usually when times are bad, the constrictions prevent you from doing it. So my opinion is that because times are good, it is the right time to invest in our infrastructure and create something. This project will have a minimal financial impact for taxpayers, hence the public-private partnership. And we've talked about this as an asset. All right, so some details. February of this year, the municipality called for a request for proposal publicly on social media and otherwise. There was approximately a 30-day period where we all had opportunities to submit, and this was our submission. Our vision here is to create a public square at the water's front. Squares are places where people gather, where people meet for various activities. They have a sort of warmth to them, a cocooning almost effect, and we feel the harbor front is a perfect spot for it. We want to respect the past and pay homage to it. Actually, before I start into this, I want to say that this is vision, proposals, and concepts. We expect to work with staff, public consultation piece, which we'll talk about later, and we fully expect that this vision will evolve. So nothing's chipped in stone, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So again, back to paying homage to the past, we propose to name this the Cedar Crescent Village. It's a wonderful name that has a connection to the past via the casino. A village evokes a warmth and a let's go to the village type of thing, and has been used successfully as a tourist destination elsewhere, which I think we can piggyback off of. The anchor to this village will be the restaurant called the Whitefish Grill. Whitefish is a natural resource, evokes the Great Lakes. I wanted to avoid harborside, waterfront, any cliches. I wanted to pick a name that made sense to the Great Lakes. This restaurant will be in keeping with the theme that this is a property for all of us, will be someplace everybody can feel welcome. If it will be licensed, our vision is to have the license only till 11 p.m. We want to respect our neighbors. There's plenty of opportunities to make a return in the daytime and till 11 p.m. I don't believe it's necessary past that for the restaurant. What kind of restaurant is it going to be? It'll be a place My wife and I can go for a glass of wine and a piece of fish. It'll be the kind of place the ball team can go down and get a pitcher of beer and some wings. And it'll also be the place that visiting engineers to one of our suppliers can go down and enjoy the scenery. So it really will be something for all of us. We propose a conference center called the Hall at the Cedar Crescent Village. Again, a conceptual name. This will be an all-purpose hall available to corporate clients, private weddings, any of that sort of activity will be there. It'll be our hope is that it'll seat 300 people on the second floor of the restaurant, and will be a space that is subdividable so that it can work for breakout groups. It can work for smaller groups. It can work for nonprofits, anything like that, any place that needs a meeting place. And of course, it'll be overlooking Lake Huron. So what else is going to go on down there? I'm going to skip to the bottom point and then come back to Kids Camp, because Kids Camp is going to need a lot more talking to. We proposed a feature called the Sunset Tower. It is, you'll see it here on these elevations. It's the thing that sticks out the most, obviously. It's a feature we've seen in other waterfront communities, good for selfies, for wedding photos, for graduation photos, for tourists, for receptions. It is built in next to the banquet hall so that it can fit as a reception area for corporate events. Something to make it sort of stand out. I think I want to. All right, so what goes on in the middle there? There's a middle section. You can see it in the bottom diagram. I have handouts here, by the way, for everybody. So one of the first things I think we'd like to see going on down there, because we do want to fill this with life, is kids programs. I grew up in London, and when you didn't have money to go away to a cottage, you went to the PUC and signed up for kids camps and showed up on Monday morning, and you were busy for 5 days. And it was a wonderful thing, and it was a low-cost thing, and it really helped get through the summer. And we'd like to start doing things like that. I know the municipality does some things like that. We want to talk to them about what we can do to help to augment that, or take over the programs ourselves and run them down there. I don't think it'll be anything better to see on a Monday morning 150 kids with camp counselors saying, okay, you're in drama comp, you're in environmental sciences, you're going to learn how to windsurf today, and these guys are going to learn how to hit a volleyball properly. Our vision is that will help create a real life to the area and be a really great service to provide. So the next slide, before I go into more explanation, is a site plan, a proposed site plan. You'll see the lake, and you'll see that the building facing the water has got a bend in it, and it conforms to what is called a dynamic beach line, which is what Saugeen Valley has suggested. It has got a feature in the middle. And then it has what we're calling a beach-appropriate retail on the other side. So the middle is I want to backtrack actually something. To make this successful, and we talk about commercial viability, it's important that we make it viable beyond the 8 to 12 weeks that we call summer around here. And because frankly, 8 to 12 weeks, it's be pretty easy to run a commercial enterprise down there for 8 to 12 weeks. And if I just wanted a restaurant down there for those weeks and maybe a little bit on the shoulder season, I'd be fine financially. But again, this property is all of ours, and it needs to benefit all of us. And the way I think it benefits all of us is for it to be a 12-month destination. We propose an outdoor skating rink in the middle. It will be piped in. It will not be weather dependent. Think of Nathan Phillips Square in Toronto. Think of the ice in Kitchener-Waterloo at their City Hall. And think of families skating on New Year's Day as a sort of an event to welcome the new year in. That's just one of the many things I think we can plan for that. Minor league hockey can do practices. It won't be a full size, but we can do lots of different fun things down there. In the summertime, we fill it with sand, put volleyball courts in it. What's good about that? Anybody who's driven down to the beach may have noticed we're losing some beach, and I propose that we can reclaim some of the beach for the municipality's use down on Harbor Street between Green and Izzard Street. There are volleyball courts there. They could be relocated here, and then we would have that land to do something else with, we as a community. Let me just... What's this? Those are elevations, just so people get a sort of an idea as to what these things are going to look like. One of the buildings, actually one of the retail buildings, has been actually designed to look like the Cedar Crescent Casino. Dan, that would be the top elevation on the left? Right, top left and bottom right, has been designed to look like the Cedar Crescent Casino, and that will be a beach-appropriate retail. All right, what else is down there? Beach store, rentals, bicycles, things for seniors, things for kids, appropriate beach retail. What does that mean? It means that there won't be a dollar store down there. It means that whatever is down there, you won't even notice it because it'll fit, because it'll be obviously something that belongs down there. And we will work with the town in consultation to make sure that that's something that makes it financially viable, again, which is important, but fits. So there's the skating rink / volleyball feature in the middle, but what else goes on in there? That's a big community space. We are prepared to have consultations with every community group, because what I would like to see in there is art shows. I'd like to see open air plays, community fundraisers, markets, movie nights, buskers, concerts. Part of becoming a destination is being able to have a venue that can hold a decent amount of guests. And I'd like to bring back the cake wheel, which may mean an application for a gambling license. We're looking into it. It really would be something I'd like to do. So that space will be programmable. Additionally, the lands in question do encompass what is the flea market right now. We would like to repurpose that, move it in. It's on the diagram. Flexible programming space. I think we can do better with our market space down there. I think the type of vendor, the type of market that sits on the most valuable community piece of property should match it, and I think there's a lot we can do. We're going to create semi-permanent stalls, semi-permanent area, and encourage it to become more of an artisanal space. And I don't believe Wednesday is the only day that can be a marketplace down there. I look forward to a Saturday morning market and possibly more. That space, again, will be open to lots of community groups. We want to create some more things for kids down there, since we are taking away the mini putt, which to me had questionable use to begin with, especially for the amount of land that was being used for it. There will be a kids play zone within this complex. I don't want you to think arcade. I want you to think activity area where you go in and you come out tired and sweaty and gee whiz, I threw 50 basketballs, Dad, and I got 6 in, that kind of stuff. It'll be a good place to have a birthday party. It'll be a good place to have a gathering, and it'll be open year round. So I guess I've put off talking about the train as long as I could. My kids grew up with the train. Most of us grew up with the train. And we'd like to bring a train back. But we want a train that fits. We want a train that fits in 2019, and we want a train that is viable and sustainable. Our train, our proposed train, will be electric. I think 6 or 7 year old will barely tell the difference. It'll be a flexible machine that can go on any terrain. We will not be tied to tracks. We will be able to determine the optimal path with staff that is best for the community. My dream is to use it as flexible transportation, because when the Whitefish Grill closes at 11 o'clock, I would like to take all those people uptown, and because we have lots of viable businesses uptown, and I'd like to find ways to connect the beach to the downtown more often. So that's just one sort of dream. All right, so I've touched on the community asset aspect. Assets have to be invested in. We project that what we are proposing will cost somewhere in the order of $5 to $7 million. We believe that is a large commitment on our part, which will ensure viability and will ensure that we have an asset for decades to come. Excuse me. Assets need to be invested in, and people that invest in assets need returns. I mentioned the liaise with the community groups. While we hope to have a lease with the town for this property, we're not going to treat it like our personal fiefdom. We will encourage every community group to come and talk to us about what that space could mean to them. Because of private-public partnerships, a viable plan is the only way to make sure this works. We expect and encourage regular reviews with the municipality, formalized. Not just on the paper. We want to make sure it happens all the time, because we want to be happy with what's going on, and we primarily want the people to be happy with what's going on. We opened the Queen's 16 years ago in 2002. And I remember in those days we were always worried about the next restaurant that would open. Oh my God, we're going to lose a quarter of our revenue. Somebody else is opening. It was foolish. And 16 years later, my friend counts over 60 places you can eat lunch in this town. We're not even talking dinner. And the Queen's just had its biggest year ever. And I say this only to illustrate the fact that investment brings activity. We can't be afraid of making investments, because investments are good for all of us. If we start attracting boaters from Michigan, conferences, national level corporate conferences, because we can finally house them in a place we're proud to house them, that is going to only raise the economic bar for all of us in town. And that is truly our goal, to make an investment that will increase the inventory of usable assets, so that when an engineer needs to make a decision about whether to come to work at Bruce Power or somewhere else, they want to work here because there's a lot of things going on. We ran some models. There's no discussion that the impact of this center will be significant. 72,000 direct visitors, direct GDP impact over 4 million, indirect over 8, almost 100 jobs, and lots of taxes. So clearly, it's going to have a positive impact. What's very important to us is to make sure that everybody knows what we're doing, why we're doing it, and we listen to everybody's voice. And this is the beginning of that process. So thank you for your time. If you have questions.
Thanks, Pierre. I doubt if there'll be any questions about any of that.
Okay, good, because I got someplace to be.
I'll ask members of the committee if they have questions or comments about this presentation. Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Pierre, I want you to thank you and your team for your willingness to continue your investment in our community. You're a wonderful corporate citizen and community member, and this is pretty thrilling stuff.
Further questions? Councillor Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you, Mr. Donnini, thank you very much for the presentation. It's wonderful. It's a very exciting development what you're proposing here. The more I hear about it, the more surprised and excited I am to see what the possibilities are. It also raises more questions about how it's all going to work, but I'm sure, with a willing proponent and a willing municipality, that those things can be worked out. And I things like uses for when you're talking about subletting space out to different vendors and things like that, all that has to be worked into the lease agreement, which I'm sure is forthcoming. I'm wondering if in fact a memorandum of understanding similar to the one that we just approved tonight with NII would be the next step in this process, so that we can get a fulsome eye-to-eye agreement on what it is, your vision, and what is the town's vision, and then have that as the starting point and the impetus to get this thing rolling, because the townspeople have waited a long time for something to happen down there, and it's far overdue, and I, for one, am really looking forward to seeing how this is going to fold out over the next year or two. Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions or comments from members of the committee? Councillor Rich.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Donnini, thank you very much for your presentation tonight. It's a very exciting opportunity. I do have one question for you. What kind of a timeline are you looking at as we sort of moving forward? Say this is approved, and then how long do you think it would take to build something like this?
I've been called crazy for many reasons, and this is going to be another one of them. So we could argue that the land has been left sort of unused for a year or 2 years at least. As a resident of Saugeen Shores, I'm unwilling to see it one more year like that. The town and staff are being extremely diligent in working with us to move this proposal forward. The public consultation piece is sort of our last piece of the puzzle before we start hashing out details, which is a long-winded way of saying we'd like to be open for next summer, which is a monumental task. But I'm the kind of guy that likes those kinds of challenges. I think it's possible. I think it's realistic. A few things have to happen. We all know what those things are. And I think it's incumbent on us to not let that land sit like that for one more year. So that's our goal.
Further questions from members of the committee? We'll start with the Vice Deputy Mayor and work our way down. The Vice Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Pierre, for your presentation. This is it really is a wow presentation. You are a community leader, and you've been told that many times. I'll say it again. Very successful businessman, very successful operation, and if there's an individual and a group of people that I know you have working with you can get it done, it's you. And there will be fear amongst some community members, I'm sure, and because there are those, and me included at times, saying I just like to keep it the way it is, and people do resist change, and I do sometimes too. And what do you say to those individuals that fear change, that resist change? What's the messaging? I before you answer that, I hope that you get off on the right foot, and I hope that the community embraces what you're trying to do. $5 to $7 million is a significant stick your neck out investment, and so I really hope the message gets off on the right foot, and that a significant portion of the community embraces what you're trying to do, that we get positive messaging out there, because I think there's so many good things in this proposal that make so much sense. And So the one question I had was, what do you say to those people that that are fearful, that that resist change like I do sometimes? That's the first question I have.
I resist change too. Just ask my wife. The dollar commitment is significant for one big reason, which is it telegraphs our commitment, because that's a lot of money, no matter how you slice it. There's no way I or my partners are entering into a venture without our hearts in it for that kind of money. We could have proposed to just build a restaurant. A restaurant by itself would be a wonderfully, wildly profitable thing down there. That would have been really easy to do, but that's not the way I view that property. And with respect, I think that maybe has been the view in the past, and we need to change that. We need to think more as collectively of what's good. So that commitment means that the change is going to be well thought out, and with everything I have at stake for it. So that means this isn't willy-nilly change for change's sake. This is change that's going to be good for us. I could argue that this is not change. This is restoration. This was what was always down at the beach. We're just bringing it back. A 2019 version. We have different economic realities in 2019 than we did in 1963. So we got to suit things for the times. And then I could get really philosophical and say, look at the totality of humanity's endeavors. It's only about change. It's not the change that's the problem. It's how we manage it.
Thank you. Two other just quick comments.
You can use that, Mr. Mayor, in your...
I have two other quick comments, and I have a 5-year-old grandson and a 7-year-old granddaughter, and I spend lots of time with them, and we've been on some wonderful vacations together. And my grandson, he when he was 1-2 years of age, he loved trains. He couldn't find enough train tracks to go on enough train rides. Right? He just loved the train experience. And to him, I'm pleased to hear that A train is being talked about, and sometimes we don't want to talk anymore about the train, because it's been a tough situation around this table.
You're not allowed to talk about it, are you?
Yeah, but electric trains, he's been on lots of them, and to him it made the sound when you pulled the cord.
Yep.
And shoot,
That's right.
and wasn't steam. But for him it was important just to be on a train. So I'm really pleased to hear that you're considering a train. And the 300-seat banquet theater up here, I've had a few people talk to me about parking. So a few people have seen or heard about the plan. And you put, on a regular occurrence, put 300 people in that banquet facility. Can you talk just a little bit about parking? Because it is a bit of a concern.
We've submitted our proposal, and we don't have the information back yet, but here's the theory, okay? Right now, the parking is disjointed down there. It's historical. We just inherited that way. It's nobody's fault. One of the features is that, I'm going to actually look at this map over here real quick. Sorry for those I'm blocking. You guys know this story anyway. You don't need to hear it again. The lands in question were here at the corner of Elgin and Harbour, which was the mini putt, the lands that have the flea market, and then the station itself and those lands. Our proposal moves all of that activity as close to the water's edge as Saugeen Valley allows. And so there's two good reasons for that. One will be that the land will be closer to the water's edge, making it more accessible for everybody. But what it should do, and we're waiting to hear back, is it will make our parking more efficient. I don't think we're going to we can't physically create more land down there in this specific piece of land. I'm saying land a lot. But we can make it more efficient. I have to believe, and again, the experts are going to tell us, that what will result is more parking because we're using it more efficiently.
I appreciate that comment. And once again, Pierre, and to the entire group, I wish you nothing but the best. And I hope the messaging gets off on the right foot, and that the message is positive.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. As someone who interacts in this community quite regularly, like all of us around this table, I concur with your sentiments that what you're describing is what we hear from community members. And certainly there have been a number of pleasantries suggested this evening about the public-private partnership, and I agree with all of them. I do have some pragmatic questions and concerns that by no means do I expect answers to this evening, but certainly things for you to take away and consider. Yeah. The first of which you've mentioned a community consultation process that I assume, or can only assume, will take some time. Similarly, you've expressed a timeline that we can both agree is fairly aggressive. So my question to you and the challenge you'll be left with is how to balance those needs of understanding the community's wishes in a very aggressive span of time. Similarly, as far as the timeline is concerned, based on the investment that you and your partners will be making, as well as what the community will be offering up in terms of what is our greatest asset, I need to be assured that we won't be sacrificing quality in terms of the rush to get to next summer. This is or must be done, in the best possible way and to the abundance of quality. You've mentioned two things in relation to staffing, and I'm sure you recognize, because I know you participated in the labor shortage discussion, but we are certainly in a socioeconomic, we have some constraints in this community in terms of the ability to find employees, and I would caution you in that regard in terms of how you will address those concerns. And then lastly, the length of the lease is something that has yet to be talked about, but is something that will cause some concern amongst community members. We've certainly heard it, I've certainly heard it, and I expect others have too. You mentioned periodic reviews, and I would suggest to members of this table as well as to the CAO that those periodic reviews also contain a form of off-ramps or something that could be negotiated in terms of the lease agreement. So you're welcome to comment on any of those things. I do want to end with, I am delighted to see the development in that area. It is, I've yet to be able to experience waterfront with my young family, and I look forward to the days where we'll be able to experience that life with my young family. So I appreciate all that you and your partners are doing. I just have some pragmatic approaches to share with you.
Are you trying to say the devil's in the details? You're absolutely right. It is with this kind of investment, we'd be insane to do it with half measures. If we didn't care about this community and it was only about money, we would be absolutely incentivized to make sure it's done properly. And so I couldn't agree more. We have I believe there's a next council meeting is in a month, and we are lucky to have social media and the internet, and I believe the public consultation will be starting right now, and I expect, actually, here's a small plug, I'll be on the radio tomorrow morning talking about this, and I expect we'll hear very quickly, and we'll be able to make assessments very quickly as to whether we're on the right path.
I think I might just ask the CAO to make some comments about public consultation. I think that's an appropriate area for the municipality to make some comments.
Sure. Thank you very much for the questions and the opportunity to comment. So I would say a couple of things. Number one is our online polling is starting. We'll be starting after tonight to start to get feedback on the proposal. We launched one for our tourism study just a few short days ago, and over the weekend we had 700 people respond to that. So in our community, length of time is not usually a barrier, because when we do online polling, people jump on really quick. So we'll be starting with that. I would also just build on something Pierre said, is that the community consultation has been going on for a number of years. Our waterfront master plan was very thorough, very inclusive, very representative of our community needs. Pierre's proposal and his partner's proposal aligns closely with the community's expressed needs. So we've already started almost in a historical way, but we are starting with the online polling that's ramping up. We do know that there are specific stakeholders that we want to spend more time with. once they've seen this, local residents, the condo, other important stakeholders. So we'll be meeting with them. There is also an opportunity that we'll be doing a focus group session. The mayor is hoping to lead a focus group session of citizens to provide feedback to council. So there's a number of different ways. It is starting after the meeting tonight, and I don't think there'll be any shortage of people with comments or opinions.
Further comments from members of the committee. Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I forgot to say something earlier, and that is that one of the things I really like about this proposal is something that we need more of, which is providing shoulder season and winter activities, and that fits right in with our tourism strategy and initiative right now, and I really like the planning you did included on that. Thank you.
If I may, the restaurant will be open 12 months a year. The conference center will be open 12 months a year. We hope to do things like haunted train rides and the Polar Bear Express through the appropriate seasons with the new train. And the appropriate retail applicants will be encouraged to give us business plans that make sense for as long of the year as possible. Again, anybody can run a business down there for 8 or 12 weeks and be successful. We don't care about that. We want to know what you're going to do for the other 40 weeks. And I think there's some entrepreneurs out there that will have some great ideas for us.
Further comments from members of the committee? Doesn't look like it. I have a comment. Thank you very much, Pierre. Ever since I have been on this council, and it's been a couple of years now, folks have said to me and told me that the Port Elgin waterfront isn't serving the community as well as they would like it to. And I know I read social media too, and I know some people out there don't think that council notices that the Port Elgin main beach isn't serving the community as well as it should, but we do. We notice it quite intensely. And so we've been making some investments. The municipality is going to invest in the order of certainly over $1 million, probably a couple $1 million by the time we're done. The federal government is just ponied up what will be an investment of millions of dollars in the Port Elgin breakwater. And now we have a significant public-private partnership invested. It will amount to millions and millions and millions of dollars in investment in Port Elgin's main beach. And it will begin to serve the public. There'll be more towel space, more parking, and more amenities to serve the entire community, beachgoers, residents, and visitors. We will build the main beach that people want, and they'll be proud. And that's what we want for our community. Primarily, we want people to be proud to have their friends and relatives and visitors come to our community and visit our main beach, and we want people to be proud to have them down there, and we want them to be proud of what we possess as a community, as what you have correctly pointed out is our number one asset. So that is our intention. We're looking forward to hearing back from members of the public. I think the Vice Deputy Mayor said it well in that we hope that the public views this as the tremendous opportunity that it is. We look forward to constructive feedback because, as you said, it isn't written in stone. But we are going to redevelop this area, and we're going to redevelop it in the interest of all the people. And we want the people of the community to tell us what they think about what you've said tonight, because we want to move forward. So thank you very much, Pierre, and we very much appreciate your time this evening.